Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for dialing in and joining us for a very special day. I think you're going to enjoy this webinar. It's going to be the first of hopefully more to come in the future of the PWC We Want You webinar series. Today we have some of our PWC sponsors on with us, a great panel of participants. Many are FAA contract, I think all of them actually are contract companies for FAA, in case you are wondering what you would like to do following your FAA career, next steps, your next chapter. So this particular webinar is just for that. Without our sponsors, PWC wouldn't be as successful as it is. So we wanted to be able to showcase our sponsors to our members and those who are also that are not PWC members but have joined us today. Thank you for coming. So we wanted to be able to give them an opportunity to let you guys know their companies, a little bit about them, and what they're looking for. So thank you all for taking the time to be here today. I hope you enjoy this as much as we have enjoyed preparing this for you. And in case you are wondering if you didn't have an opportunity to join in, please share with others. This will be available online. We are being recorded, so just know that, and we will be able to post this webinar on our website and our social media outlets. Okay. For those of you who are not familiar, let me introduce myself. My name is Vanessa Shinners. I apologize. And I am the newly elected Vice President of PWC. Thank you very much. I will be moderating this panel today. And I'm going to go over a couple of a quick Zoom, some Zoom features for those of you who might not be so familiar. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a control bar, and it'll allow you to mute and unmute your microphones. It'll also allow you to turn on and turn off your screens and your video. There is a chat feature. If you see that at the bottom as well, you can feel free to utilize this. You can make comments in the chat. You can raise questions. You can post your questions in the chat, make observations, leave a comment. It's very interactive. And there's also a couple other features that you can share your reactions to things that are said. For example, you can clap or give a thumbs up. So feel free to use this to get my attention. There will be time at the end of this session for question and answer. So we hopefully will be able to get to most of your questions and address those. This is an hour webinar, just so you know, so we will try to get through as much information as possible, but again, we will hopefully do a follow-on. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce the sponsors that we have. We have Infina, and Ms. Sue Meeks is here from Infina. We also have UFA, and Ms. Amy Parrish has joined us from UFA. And we have Volano, and we have Ms. Donna More here from Volano. So thank you, ladies, for being here and for taking the time to do this. Welcome. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Sue, and you can tell us about Infina and yourself.
Well, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sue Meeks, and I'm the president of Infina. Infina has been doing business with the FAA, and very specifically a lot in the air traffic control world for 30 years. In fact, this year is our 30th birthday, so we're super excited about that. We do a lot of work in training, communications, software development, and safety. Safety is our baby. So we always are looking for folks who can contribute in those areas. We support folks across the ATO, and mostly at headquarters, but also in the service areas. We also support folks on the AOV side and other parts of the FAA side of the organization. So when we are looking for folks to join us, we're always looking for qualified folks. We have a lot of fantastic SMEs, and we're always looking for more. So that's a little bit about Infina.
I think I'll move on over to myself. My name Amy Parrish, and I am a director here with UFA. In case you're wondering what UFA stands for, we all are. You can make up your own acronym. I mean, we're all in aviation, so we all love our acronyms. But UFA actually was started much like Infina, several years ago, and kind of got started on some government grants and a good idea from MIT. From that time, our company has grown, and we've worked a lot both here with really the FAA. Anyone who's familiar with AT Coach, you've probably been using our product embedded in your operational systems like STARS and ERAM, for example. But we also have a number of international customers that we're very proud of, customers over in Europe, over in Asia, and who knows, maybe somewhere well beyond. I'm really looking forward today to getting the opportunity to speak with all the women here on this panel. I've already had the opportunity to learn so much about their own companies that I didn't even know, and it instantly already got me energized and recharged to kind of start meeting some of you and get a better idea of what you might be looking for, whether it's after your career, currently with the FAA, or maybe you're just looking for a change or just looking to see what's out there when that time comes for you to move on to something new. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. And next we have Donna Mori with Volano.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Donna Mori from Volano, and really happy to be a part of this incredible panel. Similar to the others that you have here, FAA is one of our primary customers. Our organization, Volano, is 100% focused on the transportation industry. We support air traffic, but we also support other FAA offices, including Office of Policy and Plans, and also hazardous materials. So we've got to reach into other parts of the agency. There is actually we have 3 pillars in our company, which is software development, data analytics, and program management. And a lot of the things that you guys are doing as air traffic controllers is actually applicable to the program management side and also the subject matter expertise that we need. And then also today, there's similar to some of what Sue was talking about, we have a program that directly impacts the air traffic community, and that's training enterprise application management, which is going to turn those pumpkin folders into an electronic database. We've got you in 39 facilities, but hoping to get to the 274 that are left. We also work on PIREPs as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of crossover between the work you're doing and what's happening in the private sector. Looking forward to talking to you about that today.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate that. And thank you once again, ladies, for being here. I have a couple questions lined up for you, and then we'll go ahead and take some from our audience as well. So some of you touched on this already, but if you could just each take a moment and let us know what are some of the jobs that controllers are qualified for in each of your companies. So Sue, could you please start off? Thanks.
Sure. As I mentioned, one of our focus areas is safety. So we're always looking for the QA specialists, the safety analysts, folks who are familiar with Cedar and Falcon, which I know you all are, like it or not. So we are always looking for folks who are SMEs in those areas. If you're also a pilot, that's very valuable to us because we do a lot of work to help integrate the GA community and their needs with the safety needs of the FAA. We've got several tools that we've developed specifically for runway safety and the analytics around runway safety. We need SMEs to help us pin events. For example, we geospatially pin specific events on the surface of runways, and we need the SMEs to help us validate those events. We have folks who help us validate now UAS events. So if you're aware of that, and I'm sure you are, if you work near an airport, you would be, that the UAS is coming into the airspace, that's really becoming an issue. So part of our work is in the mitigation, the validation of those events, and then the mitigation of the risk that those pose to the airspace. So we're looking for jobs in those areas as well. So safety, QA, UAS, the analytics and SME support around Cedar and Falcon, those are all important to us.
Thank you, Sue. We are quite familiar with those in the field, Cedar, Falcon, and the like. Amy, would you please share a little bit about your company?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in there. Here at UFA, I mean, I'll say there are a number of areas that I've seen a number of air traffic controllers, whether retired, just kind of looking for a change, have been supporting our company. I want to touch on a couple that I find myself particularly exciting. And the first thing is travel. I mean, who doesn't love traveling someplace after you've already worked however many years, you've put in your time, you've done that job, and now you just want to travel someplace nice and exotic and fun and get a chance to experience a new culture. And what if I told you that could all be done not having to pay out of your pocket? It sounds pretty exciting, and I'll tell you, it does definitely happen at our company. One of the benefits of working, you know, outside of the United States, is, as great as it is, I mean, you certainly can have your goal to go to all 50 states. That would be fun too. But I mean, for example, Quinn, who's kind of helping run the controls on the back end of our webinar today, you know, she is a CTI graduate from the University of North Dakota, an FAA hopeful one day. And tomorrow she's getting on an airplane to fly to Madrid to attend her first World ATM Congress event. So little things like that, we're always looking for SMEs to support those items, as well as installations, training, and support for our international customers. Some of those customers are just now starting to look at new training programs, and they're looking to learn from maybe your experience of implementing something yourself or being part of a work group with your own experience. So that's an area there that we could use expertise on. One thing I found, and I think Dawn kind of noted on it a bit, was program management. I definitely can tell you that every one of you starts off with a plan when you sat down on position, and that plan never happened the way that you expected, yet you always adapted, right? I like to joke that I've never met a controller who's left an airplane up there yet. It just doesn't happen, right? And sometimes when you're looking at project and program management, you have to have that mindset, because that's simply the way a project goes, never the way that you're kind of looking for. So definitely there can always pull a skill set out and start to tune that as well. The final piece I would say is, if you're interested in technology, and let's face it, we all have our smartphone, our iPad, our tablet. We all might have kids who also are teaching us new things every day about that technology. Or maybe you're into gaming, right? Games have become super fun. Everybody's playing them. You know, if you play Farming Simulator every day for 20 hours, tell us why. Because what we're trying to do is bring the next generation, get them engaged, get them motivated, passionate again about an industry that isn't going anywhere. And all of those skills can be applied in areas here at UFA. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm going to jump in here too, Vanessa. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, you're next. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm listening to this, and I'm kind of discovering, I just want to take a step back for a second, because I'm listening to what Amy said, and I'm hearing Sue talk about some of the programs that they made. And, you know, you all might not think you're in a position to make a difference to how things are run at FAA, but you are. Cedar, started by an air traffic controller. Falcon, started by an air traffic controller. Team, really promoted by a former air traffic controller. So, you know, there are ways for you to make a difference. If there's something that you see that you want to have changed, it can happen. So I just wanted to make that one point. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, it's fine. No, totally a true statement, 100%. And some of them even started on a bar napkin, if I was told correctly. But Dawn, yes, would you please answer that question as well? What are some of the jobs that are geared for controllers within your company?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, we keep talking about this SME, subject matter expert, and kind of getting back to that other piece that we do rely on the fact that change is hard. And so as we try to make changes and incremental changes in how things are done at the FAA, having an understanding for how things work is really important. So from our perspective, our jobs, we really need to have the expertise of an air traffic controller to help us design software, to help us with business process reengineering, to help us move from antiquated systems to new things for system modernization. Those things can't happen without like an as-is understanding. So as we look for our analysts, we're looking for people with that expertise. So we're looking for program managers, and then we're also looking for people who might have a good network and can help us build our business. So people who might know other people in the agency and be able to, help us, continue our business in other parts of the agency. There's plenty of work for everybody.
Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate that. So another question that we thought many people would be interested in is how would people prepare now in their FAA careers for their next chapter, their next career? If they are not quite yet retired, are there steps that they can take now that would help them become more qualified for these positions? Dawn, could you share a little bit on that?
Sure, absolutely. So I guess if you're trying to plan for your next steps, I mean, certainly knowing what it is you want to do and knowing what your interests are, I mean, that's really one place to begin. I can tell you that FAA is still trying to, make data work for the agency, right? And it's like Sue had talked about, even just making sure things are on a map. Quality assurance is really important, making sure that everything that we producing from a data product looks good. So we're trying to, so that if your interests are in data or analytics, that's certainly one area. We're also trying to, make sure that everything that happens from the beginning of the end and how systems are connecting to each other. We've heard a lot of acronyms like STARS and ERAM, but really understanding how all those pieces fit together, especially as we're moving to next generation systems, and that we're also looking for how data are flowing and where the gaps are, because with data, we might be able to increase our capacity without adding another runway or another tower. Knowing how we might move to virtual towers. All of those things are things to think about, and you'll need to really understand how those all work. You also really need to know your stuff, right? If you're going to walk into another room, you're going to need to make sure that you've got, the respect of your other peers and so forth. So really, getting a good understanding about what's happening with the definition, the various FAA orders, or what's happening with the different systems. Those are all going to be things that are really going to be helpful to you. Also I would say that if there's some way that you can join, volunteer groups or cadres, that you might be able to volunteer to teach recurring training on work groups, volunteer to be a cadre instructor, volunteer to help us promote team when it comes to your facility. These are ways that not only you can help the FAA meet its mission, but this is another way that you can meet other people, and building your network is super important. So those are some of the pieces of advice I have.
Thank you. Very, very good, informative. I'm writing all these notes down. It's going to be a little while for me, but check. And would either of you like to add to that, Sue or Amy?
I would just echo a lot of what Dawn was saying in terms of preparing. If you can learn what the person's role is above you, what the person's role is below you, and what it takes to move from position to position, what it takes to move from, one type of air traffic control environment to another, if you can learn as much about that as possible while you're in your career, that just makes you that much more valuable, and your knowledge becomes much more broad when you're looking to join a contracting team, because we don't have the flexibility, especially small businesses. Now, I can't speak for larger businesses, but we don't have the flexibility to just focus in on just one single area and only work on that area. I mean, we have to cover, like Dawn was mentioning, and Amy, I heard you mention too, and I know you guys are a lot larger, but you've got to know a lot of different things. You have to know your job. You have to know the job of air traffic control, and that's what adds value to the next work environment. So giving yourself experience on working groups and working teams, and do you support SMS? Do you support QA? I remember, so long ago when we were moving from 1999 to 2000, I know it's a long time ago, but I have been around a while. There was a huge hullabaloo around Y2K. A lot of you were on well, maybe not if you're younger, but you were on working groups, and some of the folks that we got shortly after that, the resumes and things, they were on those groups. Well, that was good because that showed an expansion kind of duties and knowledge and information.
Thank you, Sue. I see there are some questions that we are starting to get in. I don't want you to think that I'm ignoring you. We will take them at the end. I'm almost halfway through our standard questions that we had, so we will be able to get to you. I just wanted to let you all know that. Please keep them coming. Something that comes up all the time with our federal workers is resumes and writing resumes. We have a system that we call, USA Jobs and KSAs. Everyone is familiar with having to write those. But in the private sector, it's quite different. And what you look for in a resume is not quite that. So it is something that maybe we're not familiar with. Maybe you could share some information on resume writing, what you look for as an employer. Sue, would you be able to give us some information on that?
Sure, and I'm sure Dawn and Amy will have stuff to add too about what they're looking for. But yeah, we don't want your electronic personnel file. We don't just want a list of all of the facilities where you worked. And yes, I was an ATC and I'm a certified ATC. That doesn't mean anything to folks in industry necessarily. I mean, those of us who know what air traffic control is, we know, but you really know the intensity of your job. You really know the technical aspects of your job. So take some time to describe that. And if you've worked at FAA all your career, it's just, it's probably a long list of facilities and places you've been, but take the time to explain a little bit about the technical aspects of your job. And like we all mentioned earlier, take the time to note working groups, take the time to note special training that you've received, take the time to note certifications. Maybe you are a pilot, take the time to note that and talk about that. And if you've participated with recurrent training or with another initiative, take the time to note that, but write it out in a way that shows the impact of what you did and how you personally impacted either the working group or the job that you did. Maybe you have a story about your role as an air traffic controller. Maybe there's an event that was very impactful and that really made a difference in the lives of the flying public. So make mention of that, note that, because people don't realize you guys have those experiences every day, but pull a couple of those out and note those so that the reader understands the impact of that.
Thank you, Sue. Amy or Dawn, would you like to add to that?
I'll maybe add one thing, maybe just more because working at UFA, I kind of know the culture and kind of our employee base is shifting a little bit, right? We've got a different demographic of young workers, and they're injecting this, again, new motivation, and they want to see innovation. And so if there is, something you've always kind of been passionate about, even if it's kind of a side hobby, have you taken that Raspberry Pi and made it into a lighted table at your house? Did you, create a new touch screen that your family can swipe through to see family photos? I mean, things like that are, while they might seem just cool for your house or something cool that you did as a side project, those types of innovative ideas are kind of what spark what we're starting to see in the technology field for new potential training. So put on your hobbies, put on fun stuff. Let us know who you are. I mean, we've worked with a lot of controllers. We kind of know the general personality, but tell me a little bit more about you as a person, because that's ultimately what you'd be looking for. I hope you're looking for in your next career.
Great, thank you. Yes, Dawn, did you want to add a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I just, just a couple things. We're always looking for like increased responsibility. That's definitely one thing that we're looking for. We're looking for analytical minds, being able to problem solve. And there's so many ways that you all do that in your regular jobs. Don't underestimate that. That is a huge skill. You're also working with people and other people. If you're managing people, having people management skills is actually really important to us. And I'm not talking about this with management with a capital M here. I'm talking about, just doing interactions with people and being able to get the best out of them and help mentor them. All of those things are really important to us.
I'm glad that you said that, because a lot of us, sometimes we feel like, well, I'm just a controller, or I really don't want to get into management. So how would I qualify for some? You are very qualified as a controller. There are many opportunities, even if you went into leadership positions within your own union, even they have a lot of human in the loop, and every time they roll out a new software piece of equipment, that they need this needs for that, and they go to the controller workforce. Those are all working groups. So you are very qualified, and please add your personal stories to those resumes, because that's what sets you apart from everyone else, and that is what they're looking for. So great information there. Thank you. I know another big question that comes up all the time. People are always looking for work-life balance. Many people have spent their lives in facilities and not much opportunity for telework, because they are in operational positions. So once they do get to their next position and their next chapter, they would probably like to spend more time at home with their families, but still want to have another career as well. Do you offer those kinds of opportunities for telework, some work-life balance opportunities within your companies? And I think I'll let everyone answer this within their own company. Amy, if you'd like to start.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'll be totally honest. 2 years ago, before the pandemic, I was very pro, like, we need to be in the office. This is how we learn. I was really reluctant to change, but obviously the pandemic, I will say, really kind of changed my mindset there. So one good thing coming out of the pandemic is that I was able to change my thoughts on this. What we have been able to see over the pandemic was that our teams were able to take technology such as Zoom or Teams. They were able to get on a call together and work together to achieve the goals that were needed. So we had a number of SMEs, especially, helping us do things like emulate a new radar display, or maybe we were creating new content to roll out over cloud-based training. And these were all things that, from the comfort of your pajamas, your couch, wherever it might be, we were successful, and people were ultimately happier, to be honest, working in that capacity. I can't imagine sitting in a room for 20 plus years of your career with no windows. And like, that's kind of what you've seen. You want to get out there and enjoy your life at this point. So I will say we've definitely kind of shifted our mindset there. And additionally, working doesn't always have to be, a full-time gig. That may not be what you're looking for either. We've been able to support, new employees who are looking for more like part-time, maybe 15, 20 hours a week, keeping it light, keeping their dates flexible based on maybe when the kids are coming over, or when the pool party is going off, or you got a nice long weekend planned where you're going to go camping. And so we've been able to support all that with remote staff now at this point, and quite successfully. I'll also say, we've got a number of people who wanted to live abroad. Right? Why not? You don't have to just necessarily travel over there for a week. Go over there for 6 months, sit with our engineers, show them, what it's like to be a controller, how an aircraft flies, or what's expected to happen on a radar display. Let them understand, because they don't go to school for it. They don't know the technique, but you do. And even those type of opportunities are available.
If I could tag on to that, Amy, it's really funny because we had the opposite view on telework. We were already promoting telework and we're really big proponents of it. And when the pandemic started, I was actually really concerned that telework was going to get a bad name. And because, we had done it successfully for years, we didn't miss a beat. We already had a telephone system where you dialed the extension. Like our customers, like, can I have Steve's cell phone? Can I have Charlie's cell phone? I'm like, why? They're like, well, I only have their office number. I'm like, well, their office number goes wherever they are. So we already had the technology in place. So we didn't miss a beat. So we're firm believers in telework for exactly the reasons, Amy, it sounds like you've realized. And having flexibility is really important. With team rolling out, we're going to be looking for people to support our service desk, probably at different hours and on the weekends. That's a perfect way for a former air traffic controller to support the community and not have to do it on a full-time basis. So,
yeah. And I'll just tag on to that. When we rolled out our 2022 strategy, it was a hybrid work strategy, and it was not all remote and it was not all in person. For 2 years, we've been totally remote, and we've maxed out a lot of those collaboration technologies, and it's been really exciting to see a lot of those. So we have a lot of people remote and even non-local, not just remote locally, but non-local. And I know, Amy, you guys have people all over the world. As a small business, we don't necessarily have that, but we have them all over the country, and they're able to work and be productive. And our whole hybrid strategy for 2022 was focused on that. But the other piece of that is many of our SMEs are part-time. They're retired. They retired once. They don't want to work full-time. There's, by this time, Amy, grandkids, maybe not just kids, but grandkids, right? So they want to spend time with grandkids. Hey, I'm going to the lake. I'm going to spend time with my grandkids. I'll be on my phone, but not so much available. That's fine. And that sometimes works really great for us because we don't necessarily need something full-time, but we can be flexible with those SME needs. And with our recurrent training that we do, if you've taken recurrent training, you've taken our courses the last 6.5 years, Infina has been producing those recurrent training courses, and we need those SMEs. And so sometimes our SMEs may not be on the working group, but they're going to provide information to our ISDs about what's the right way to do this, or look at this, or what's the reference from the .65, or how do we handle this piece of recurrent training. We need that information for our QA folks out in the field. We need that support and that SME work, and those don't have to be full-time, and they can be remote. Many of those can be remote. So we have always had people not physically located in the office, probably not quite as dispersed as Dawn pre-pandemic, but man, during the pandemic, we jumped to it, and our folks were really good at getting the technology in place to make sure we could be super productive no matter where we were.
Thanks. And, that's a good point. Some people also want to downsize and move to quieter places and get away from the big cities where most companies are located. So yeah, that's definitely something that would interest people. Thank you for sharing that. So those are most of the questions that I had for now, and it looks like we're just about a little over halfway through. And I'd like to start pulling some questions from the audience at this point, if we do have any. Quinn, do you see where they are? I know there was a hand raised from Susie Hotkins, I believe. So if Susie is still on, would you be unkey?
I was going to ask about the part-time work rather than full-time work, and you already covered it. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie. Thanks for joining. Anybody else have a question?
We've got Kurt who has his hand off. Hand up, Kurt.
Hi, Kurt.
Hi. Hey, thanks for taking my question. So could you say a little bit more about how, so I'll just say this since we're in a closed circle here. So I'm very interested in after retirement work. I did retire already. I retired a couple years ago, and I had thought I might jump into something like this right away. And then with COVID and everything, I didn't know what to do or how to express an interest. So how would I go about expressing an interest in working with one of your companies?
So I think every company probably does their recruiting a little bit differently. Don't know. Most of us have a website. Our website has every single position open, and we work through a recruiting software package that streamlines that whole process for us. But if you have an interest and you're not sure where to go, just come to me. I'm good. I can pass that along to our HR team and our interview teams, and I'm happy to do that, because sometimes you don't find just exactly the right fit in just some random job description that's on on our website. Those are all positions we have. But if you have an interest, a lot of times we may not post a position because it's a little bit farther down the road, but we might be interested in you. So please reach out to me directly, or you can go to our website. And I think probably it's very similar in other cases.
Great, thank you.
Maybe I'll add one item to that too. I mean, we're here because of the professional women controllers, right? And again, I know kind of where I started in the aviation community was going to a university, meeting PWC at a conference, introducing myself, starting to form those relationships, and have since stayed in touch with them. And now, of course, are part of that organization as a corporate sponsor. So I'll also say, keep in touch with any of those organizations that you may be a part of, because a lot of times I'll reach out to those organizations when we're starting to hire, when there's a new opportunity, and maybe we're just looking for, that right group of people that we really need to jumpstart that project. And so I know I heavily rely on a lot of our industry partners to see if they've got the right fit or the right candidate in mind.
Nice. Dawn, did you want to add?
Just one thing, certainly certainly as members of PWC, same thing, I'm going to ditto what Sue said exactly. And you could certainly reach out, to me. If there's a company that you're interested in, LinkedIn is a great way to go, finding their HR department, most companies, like Sue was saying, will have their careers and their jobs posted, maybe not the ones that they're kind of planning for the future. But if you do think that you're interested in a company, you could start an informational interview with their HR department, see what they're doing, find out, what they have. You could even go into like USA spending and see what kinds of contracts that they have, and if those are of interest to you. It doesn't give a whole lot of detail, but those are some research things that you could do as you're trying to figure out what company is the best fit for you.
Thank you, Dawn. We had a question, I think, in the chat. Is consulting the same as being a subject matter expert? If you could just tell us the similarities and the differences. Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, so I can at least give the view from UFA's side. I can say, to the most extent, UFA doesn't have a lot of consultants. We really like to stick with those true SMEs, those subject matter experts. And here's why, right? We really want to make the investment in who's joining our team. We are fairly small. We're less than 200 employees, and we tend to be pretty close knit, right? And even a lot of our staff, again, they're a little bit younger. They're looking for that career in the FA. That's their hopes, their dreams. And it's nice to bring those SMEs in, even just to talk about your experience, talk about, that career, get them energized, mentor them, right? They're going to have a long, lengthy process potentially to get hired, help them through that. And if it works out for them, cheer them on. And if they end up saying, this career, something like it is right for them, help guide them through that journey and see where they can make that difference. So I know to the most extent, we stick more with the SMEs versus consultants. And that's kind of what we like to do, because that's just our company culture. So.
And I would just jump in and say, yeah, so I don't think UFA is, I don't think Volano is, and Infin is certainly not a consultancy. So in the purest sense of the word, we don't hire consultants, but to us, an SME is a consultant. They're the ones that give us the information that we need when we're developing our courses, when we're doing our QA, when we're validating events, when we're building a new piece of one of our software tools. So to us, that's as close to consultants as we get, because we're not a consultancy. But you're right, Amy, it's very directed, targeted technical expertise we're looking for.
Yeah, same here. I mean, some of that terminology about consultancy could refer to like whether you're part-time and you're like a free agent, as opposed to what Amy was talking about, which is what I think Sue and I prefer, is like to have people on as employees. So you're part of the group and that you're working for the benefit of the company. Though there are people who do want to work part-time and that they may choose to have like a different employment structure. But I agree with Sue 100%. The expertise, whatever you label it, is what we're looking for.
And then the tax structure kind of dictates the rest, whatever kind of tax structure you want to have as an employee as part of the conversation that we have, because we want it to be beneficial for you. And we know when people retire, you have retirement accounts. You don't need some things, but you do need other things. So we're very flexible in those discussions.
Thank you very much. I have a question from Patty Wilson. Would like for you to expand a little bit on informational and interviews and how you get your foot in the door to start those conversations. John, did you
Since I brought that up, yeah. Every company is different. So, I mean, you may get more traction in some companies than others. So definitely LinkedIn, and a lot of the companies will have HR departments or recruiters, and those recruiters, you know, it's their job to like learn about people so that they can bring the people together with the company. So they will be just as interested and talk to you and tell you about what the opportunities are. So sometimes it's just that simple about finding the right person at the right level in the company. So that's one part of it. And then just, you know, doing your research, go on the website. I mean, I've had somebody contact me and say, hey, you know, I learned about doing this. You know, I'd really like to learn more. I read this article. I'd like to learn more. So I think it's really just a matter of reaching out. Don't be afraid of somebody saying no. They probably won't say no. They'll probably just not respond. And sometimes you have to keep going and keep knocking at the door, right? So if there's something that you're really interested in learning at, it might take more than just the one email. Don't take it personally. Sometimes you just have to keep going. And, you know, I know that I have hundreds of emails coming in every day. I do my best to respond to all of them. But, you know, if somebody's trying to hit me again and be like, hey, trying to reach you again, I'll pay attention. So really don't take it personally if you don't hear back right away.
And as a small business, we're pretty flat. And so most of those kinds of things do bubble up. And so I see a lot, and I am not opposed to anybody reaching out and contacting me personally, whether it's on LinkedIn or through email. But like Dawn said, LinkedIn is an excellent resource. You can go to the company pages, you can go to personal pages, you can even find, you know, the HR folks. So that's a really good way to start.
And maybe one final item I'll add to that. Again, I'm not sure all the locations that you might be in, but I know I spoke a little bit about the World ATM Congress coming up, and there are a number of aviation focused, software focused, you know, whatever type of focus you might be looking for. There are trade shows, there are events, there are exhibitions around, and especially here, at least in the DC area where I'm located, there are a number of those. I know I often go to those. I'm sure, you know, the companies here also go, whether they have a booth or they're just walking around. And I found sometimes I'll just walk around, and the first person that makes direct eye contact with me, like, I'm going to talk to you. I don't even know who you are, but like, that's what I do. And that's really how I've met a large portion of the people that either I'm working with today or that I can call on the phone and say, hey, I've got this problem, or I'm looking for this solution. Do you have anything in mind? And that is something that really doesn't cost any money either, right? You get out there, you just meet people, and you might learn something at the same time. So.
And it's a good point that you're all making. You know, it's not just the person themselves that you're interested in, it's their network of people that comes along with that person that's equally as important. And PWC does give us I mean, that's one thing I love about the organization is the networking that is available to you as part of this organization. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Did we have any other questions from our guests today?
I saw that there was a hand up. I'm probably going to terribly butcher the name here. I'm so sorry, but yeah, Tanya. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly, but did you have a question?
You got it right. And I know we're pressed for time, and this might take a little while, but you know, I listened about how to get your foot in the door. How did you guys, I mean, surely you didn't go to college or start before you went to college and said, you know, how am I going to get a contract with the government? What piqued your interest and said, I'm going to get a contract with the FAA, I'm going to get a contract with the government? What was your turning point? And what's your background to get to that turning point?
Wow. I'll be happy to answer. I'll tell you that how we started, how my business partner and I started was actually we were kind of on different paths. I don't want to, you're right. This is going to take a long time to answer. I'm going to try to help you. But we were both interested really in transportation. And so we both, before we kind of came together to build the company, I was working for Amtrak because I was like really into Amtrak and rail stuff. And he was really into FAA stuff. And so when we came together, we were able to bring our transportation together. Now, how did we do that? We were both under subcontracts. So we were actually working with companies who already had contracts established, and we were able to kind of really make an impression. And it just so happened that the companies that we were working with like weren't really that focused on the customer. So kind of when we broke out, it was a no-brainer for us to do it on our own. And now it's like 20 years that's gone by, and we still have FAA and Amtrak as our customers. So it's little steps toward the goal.
That's great.
So I'll just say we've been in business for 30 years, but my father was a pilot and a mechanic, got training that way. My grandfather was a businessman, always loved both education and business, and was always interested in doing something along that route. And I was working in the FAA as a part of a larger company, and had some really great customers and just loved working with them and saw efficiencies and things that could be done better. A lot of process control. We actually started out doing a lot of financial analysis, facility reports. I did the original estimates for DCA Tower, Potomac Tracon, Northern California, Southern California. But that was so long ago until they finally got them done. But it was so very interesting to me, and it grew from there. Just being open to some of those opportunities, I think, was really, really important. So Tanya, if you're interested, like that kind of thing, if you're kind of entrepreneurial and interested in doing something on your own, I just say go for it. I mean, you never know where opportunities will lead you if you just take advantage of those opportunities and aren't afraid if somebody just says no. If door closed over here, there's another one that's going to be open over there. But if you're also just interested in working with companies that kind of have that history, that's awesome too. We're always looking for creative-minded people who want to make an impact on the work that they do, but also the communities around them.
I wish I could say I had just as interesting of a background as Dawn and Sue, but mine is actually, it'll be a little sad, right? I grew up and I just loved airplanes so much. And I knew, like, I must have watched a movie or something when I was younger. And I said, I want to be a controller. That's what I'm going to do. And so I said, I grew up in Indiana. I'm going to go to the Navy, right? I need to get out of Indiana first. I want to take the burden off my parents for my college. I'm going to go to a university after my military experience, and then I'm going to become a controller. And this was really the pathway I had laid out for myself from about the age of 6, I think. So the problem is, again, some things don't always work out as planned. And at the time after I graduated, government sequestration hit. And unfortunately, I aged out of that opportunity. And I took a little time to feel down about myself. And then I picked myself up and I said, well, if I couldn't be there to be part of that change, what can I do to be part of the change for my peers? Right. I went to school with a lot of people now that have been in the agency for several years. And I want to make sure that what we can provide now to them for training, or, the youth of America or anyone coming up, that can be my difference. And so that's really kind of where I focus my efforts without ever thinking initially, that would be my path. So ultimately, I'm still making a difference for the FAA, just like I always wanted to do. I just may not be necessarily part of that organization, but I know that I'm part of the change for that organization.
Excellent. And the reason I asked that is, I'm getting close to the end of my career. And I'm asking myself, how do I make a difference? Just like what you asked yourself. And each of you said something about how you make a difference. And that's what I want to be a part of in my career, at the end of my career. And I'm sure each one of these ladies and gentlemen want to do the same thing. And that's why they're listening to you. and to hear each of your stories, I think is going to be beneficial to each one of them. And I know it is to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. And I think what's kind of common to all of this is that there's a lot of, we care, right? That's where we're starting, where we care. We care about the FAA's mission, right? And we care about, you know, public safety. We care about making sure that we maintain the FAA as the safest airspace system in the world, right? That's why people look up to us. So really knowing your game. And if you're getting close to retirement, even a year, like that's not a lot, you know, you still have time to build your network, to, you know, learn things, to gather information. So, but I think that the common thread from this panel is that everybody really cares and wants to make a difference. So you're already halfway there.
Well, thank you. That was an excellent question, Tanya. I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing more about yourselves and your stories. We do have 5 minutes left if anybody had one last one.
I'll just throw this out there, Vanessa. This is Patty.
Hi, Patty.
For those of you who are looking for outside opportunities outside of the FAA, I know that I wanted to get involved with the union when I was young as a controller, and because of the way things happen in the union, I couldn't get elected to anything, so I moved to other things. But I would simply say it's like any of the employee association groups, any kind of volunteer thing that you can do to put yourself out there and put yourself in a leadership decision-making position. That is a great opportunity to develop yourselves. And I'm going to go out there and I'm shamelessly going to say this. PWC is an excellent opportunity for you to branch out. All three of these ladies I met through PWC at a conference or something like that. And so the relationships, and then when they talk about building a network, this is an organization that does it. And the only thing that stands in your way is you. To get, just like Amy said, you make eye contact with me, game on. Dude, you can run, but you can't run that fast. So, so I would definitely encourage anybody out there to definitely take an opportunity to step outside your comfort zone and get involved. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. And hey, Patty, one thing I just wanted to add to that, because in kind of talking with a couple of my air traffic controller employees, you know, I wanted to find out more about what the opportunities are for you. I did talk with somebody at a federal contract tower. They're of course always looking for people. You know, a lot of them don't have the late night operations. A lot of them close by 10 p.m. So if that's something that you're interested in, and if you could get into an executive or managerial role, that's a good long-term thing. The SAIC is the contractor that runs the academy. They're always looking for trainers. There's also some contractor positions for QA, not at the larger facilities, but at the smaller ones. So those are some other opportunities that we just wanted to bring up on this call.
And the Federal Contract Tower program, I know we may have, I thought maybe Circle would join us, but there are some Federal Contract Tower companies out there always looking for air traffic controllers as well. So and then I'm sorry, there was one question from Kurt. Kurt, you were asking about degrees, what kind of degrees were required. A lot of our contracts require degrees, but also a lot of them allow a substitute for experience and certification in lieu of a degree. So we can work that out a lot. But if you have the opportunity to get a degree, and if you're either early enough in your career or towards the end and you can do that, I would encourage you to do that.
Definitely would second that. It's definitely not required. We can normally work around that. And again, if you have the opportunity to learn it, I definitely would do it. But I will say also a number of these more private sector businesses give you the opportunity for some tuition reimbursement. Take that class. You have no idea where that skill could take you. You might think, you know, that you just sat in front of a stars display for 20 years of your career. What could you do with that? You'd be amazed at the actual amount of information you probably know about technology without even knowing about technology. So I would highly recommend even looking at that as an option as you start to, you know, take a look and see if the company you might be interested in offers things like that.
Yeah, and PWC offers scholarships, so take advantage of that. And the FAA also does a tuition reimbursement program. So yeah, take advantage, free money. right?
And one more real quick plug here for us. So this, I think, has been amazing. This is wonderful. This amazing information and resources out there. August 15th, we are doing another one of these. Right now, I have got MITRE Corporation slotted and Russ Bassett to be on there as well. And I'm negotiating the third contract that will be on there. November 15th, we're going to be doing another one. And right now, I've got SAIC committed to that one. And again, working with some other contractors right now in the background to confirm those as well. So look forward to some more of these. And this, as Vanessa said, this will be recorded and available on the website and through social media.
Yeah, and thank you. I'd like to once again thank our PWC sponsors for their time and for sharing all this information with us. And I would also like to thank UFA for hosting this successful webinar. As you can see, nothing you can do about the sun setting on my face. So I apologize. I'm gonna disappear into this background. But I think it went really well. Thank you everyone for joining us and dialing in today. You can find this on our website and on our social media outlets as well. So thank you, everyone. And with that, I'd like to say goodbye to all, and we will see you next time.